you and I, we have so much in common and so much that we can do the value with. I think it's, but I think it's important people understand it's a circle, not a dot. Hello, and welcome to Leaders in Good Company, the Chronicles of the Inner Circle, where we talk about leadership, laughs, and life. Hosted by two friends who love what they do and do what they love, Jeremy Gray and Darryl Sanford II. If you're here, you're not just looking to survive in your personal and professional life. You're ready to thrive. You want better communication, deeper growth, and the tools to become the best version of yourself. Whether you're leading a team, a business, or simply leading yourself, we're here to share the concepts, experiences, and the perspectives that helped us and our clients turn dreams into reality. So grab your weapon of choice to take notes and get ready to grow, because you're in good company.
I love that. Darryl, that's incredibly valuable. And as we're talking about that, can you share a little bit of like some of the people that are in your inner circle? I'd love to share a couple of mine so people can see that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, so in my inner circle, obviously, you and I, we get together every week. Before this podcast was even thought about, you and I were spending time every week. And why? Because we're walking a similar path. You know, right? We love leadership. We love helping people. We started working together, volunteering with Maxwell, and then we brought in the hey, I know you, when we first saw each other at IMC several years ago. And you've got for instance, you've got a contagious smile, and it's not just on your face, it's in your eyes, right? So I love hanging with you because you make me happy. Okay. And so, but we can talk about business. We can talk about clients. We can talk about downfalls. We can talk about bad days in that space. I can ask you and be a sounding board with you and say, what would you do? Or what have you done? Or have you ever had this happen? And so there's that piece for you and I. But then I've got Adam. Adam is an extremely, really good friend who, on the spiritual side of my life, helps me stay in check. Not like accountability, are you, whatever, but hey, we just have some really down to earth, honest conversations about life. He's an entrepreneur. He has his own business, but he's in the IT arena. Um, so we don't do a lot of talk about work stuff, but we talk about life stuff, and we talk about spiritual stuff. And then I've got my other probably three or four are also entrepreneurs, and also maybe in the same realm of Maxwell leadership and what we do. And I meet with them every 2 weeks, and we spend time together. There's probably 6 or 8 of us that are on that call, but some of them, I talk to more frequently than others without the 3 weeks. But it's the value, like in your inner circle, and this is going to probably sound selfish, and I'm okay with that. In your inner circle, it's your inner circle. It's for you, right? Now, that's not to say that we're not adding value to other people, but I think that inner circle, at least for me, is a grounding point. It keeps me grounded throughout the days, because good days and bad days happen. And because I'm surrounded by people that are actually helping me in different areas of my life, I can pull or be supported by multiple people in different areas. So I mean, so that's my inner circle. and my wife, right? I don't want to discount my wife in that, but that's a different inner circle, right? I mean, they're not a different inner circle, but a different part of my life that she supports and props up with. So the goal is for me, I'll say this, and then I want to hear, what you're thinking. I think we build our inner circle for us, but we become experts in being in someone else's inner circle.
I think that's powerful. I'd really like to dive deeper in that. Maybe we'll do that in our next podcast, but I was
absolutely. So, but for you, like, what's that mean to you? I mean, who are your folks, or how does that work?
Well, Darryl, as you're talking about inner circle and the people in it, I agree. Our inner circle's for us. And one thing somebody said to me years ago was, if you're the sixth person in a group of five, and those five people are wealthy, you'll become wealthy. If you have five people that are around you, or three people, or whatever that inner circle is, if they're really good at something and you start hanging around them, you will become like them. And so I think it goes back to, I know we're both love John Maxwell and that 15 laws of growth. And I know how one of the things that always appealed to me about you is your growth centric mindset, but it talks about that law of intentionality and being intentional. And so whenever I was looking for my inner circle, like I was trying to say, who are the people that I would like to be known, to be friends with? And so the first one I want to talk about is Matt. And to be very honest, Matt is my cousin, even though he and I are much closer than cousins normally are. And we've known each other for 40 years. The three or four things I've always appreciated about Matt, number one is his work ethic. He is an entrepreneur. He's a business owner. He has built a business from scratch to generating a significant amount of revenue. And the things I love about him as a business owner is that he truly cares for his people. And it's not all, roses and nice, like that old song, every rose has its thorn. And he struggles and has struggled with employees. But even after years being in business for many, many years, well over a decade, coming on 15 years, he still values his people, even though there are those ebbs and flows. So just him, and he is very candid. He is not scared to tell me when I'm not doing the right things. And I really appreciate having that person that is not scared to say things that are, it's like surgical, right? He goes into the heart of me, and he will call out whatever I'm struggling with and be like, well, this is why. How well are you doing that? I'm like, I don't always appreciate it at the moment, but in the long term, I know that he has the best interest in heart. Go ahead.
You bring up a really good point. I just want to touch on this real quick, because our inner circle needs to be honest with us. Yes. They don't need to be brutal with us.
Yes, correct. They want to, and it's funny because, and even though Matt says this often, I know his heart, and his heart helps me. Like, he'll talk about brutal honesty as his spiritual gift. But the truth of the matter is, like he can be harsh. If we didn't have years of relationship, it might seem different, but he knows how to talk directly to my heart in a positive way. And having somebody that is willing to talk to your heart, that needs to hear that, but not trying to destroy you, but trying to build you up, even if it's pulling out that log in your eye, or just that stuff, some of that stuff, like, hey, buddy, I love you, I appreciate you, but you're really messing up here. You need to work harder, do harder, whatever. So I love that, being intentional, being honest, but not trying to destroy that person, I think is really, really important as well. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up.
No. I just wanted to grab that before, because I know that you got other people in your circle, and I want to hear about them too. But that, I think, was a strong point that you said, that I think people need to understand when they're looking for their inner circle themselves.
Absolutely. I think, everybody in your inner circle has to have a little different role. So Matt is the guy that not only does he believe for me, and he cheers me on, and he can be honest with me, and he's the guy, I always tell people, one great judge for if they're should be in your inner circle or not, and specifically for me, is, can I call them at 2 a.m. and they'll answer and be there for me. And one of those guys is a guy named Ryan, and Ryan owns a construction construction outfit. He's also kind of like me, part-time cowboy. He's owns a ranch as well with him and his wife, and they have a bunch of cows. We do a lot of partnership together, so we do a lot of life things together. And the two or three things I love about Ryan: number one, he's a lot of fun. One of my core values is fun, and I like to enjoy the things, even if it's hard. I am willing to do the hard things as long as there's some fun in it. And so Ryan and I have become friends, and he also encourages me, but also in a way mentors me in some of the things that I don't know about. And I want to highlight this is that it's really cool to be mentored by somebody younger than you, especially when they have an expertise you don't have. So Ryan and I are about 8 years difference in age, almost a decade, and he has a significant amount of knowledge that he can share. And so sometimes we think mentors have to be this old wise person. The best thing about mentorship is finding somebody that's really good at something that you want to be good at. And the other thing I love about Ryan is not only is he fun and he's mentoring me, but he's also for my family. He's mentoring some of my kids and some of the skills that he has, and he is absolutely open about trying to not just invest in me, but invest in my family, which I think is significant. Obviously, Darryl is a member of my inner circle, and I actually have one more person I'll talk about later, but I really want to focus on Darryl. A few things. Number one, Darryl has an energy, and if you don't know what I mean by that, an energy, aura, a personality that shines, and that is attractive to me because he is a person that I know is an encourager. And what I mean by encourager is there's a lot of people, oh, good job. He just doesn't say good job. He takes it 2, 3, or 4 levels beyond that. He's willing to ask coaching questions, which I'll be honest with you, sometimes are not very much fun because he's willing to see the very best out of me. The other thing I love about him is he gives great hugs, and I'm I love to give hugs and give high fives, and he loves to make me laugh, and he knows he values my values, and that is something I think that people need to have in your inner circle is people that resonate with your core values, as well as being able to honor them and encourage them. And finally, and like Darryl, I also have my wife in my inner circle now. My wife is awesome, and obviously it's a different part of the inner circle. And one of the things I appreciate about my inner circle is that we try to get together regularly, and my friend Ryan's wife and my wife are good friends, so we're able to have a compatible relationship and build those things. So having your inner circle is people to do life with. The other thing for me is I tried to vary my inner circle with people that aren't just doing what I'm doing, but places that I'm interested in. And so wanted to share some of those things. And obviously I have a circle outside my inner circle with more friends, but those are the people that really get the most focus in my life because of the relationship value that we get from sharing life together.
Yeah. See, okay, so a couple of things that I wrote down some things as you were talking about that really stood out for me. Heart, value. And when I say values, you said people that have that respect and appreciate your values. Right. Again, the inner circle is about us. So having that right people that understand, aren't trying to change us, are trying to walk with us. And I think that's a huge piece. And when you were talking about me, you said I have an aura. I thought you were going to say I had an odor. And I'm like, you're in Kansas. How do you smell that from here? But then I saw, I'll let you speak it out. And
fair. I love it. I love it. And that just exemplifies kind of not only what we do together, but also like our life. It's funny. I know we've been talking for a really long time, and I wish some of our audience could just see the little humor pieces that we do, and just the, hey, let's go, and stuff like that. So that,
yeah.
So Darryl, I really.
And for those that are just listening, all he did was spin his hat. But if you want the full effect, you've got to watch the video, right?
Man, what a great time to just talk about the story and the value of an inner circle.
Yeah, I think I don't think people give it enough um credence. I don't think they lean into it. I don't think enough people know what it is. And I think that is a I think if people had an inner circle that truly were on their side, supporting them, and we're not talking about yes men, yes women, just saying yes to everything I do, that ability to have an honest, blunt sometimes conversation that actually helps you be a better person, the person that you're trying to go to. And sometime we'll talk about purpose. We'll talk about, being able to share your purpose. First off, identifying and clarifying it, then sharing it to find the right people that are going to support you on your path to get to that purpose. And I think that it takes time. I would say, well, let me ask you rather than me say, how long does it take to create your inner circle?
Oh my gosh, Darryl, what a great question. I'd say years. And I guess here's a point that could be challenging for some people to hear. And I want people to know that Darryl and I care for you. And I am saying this from a point of whenever you're looking at your inner circle, you need to look around and say, do I know my values? By the way, if you don't, I have a friend of mine, his name's Gerald Sanford II, great coach, can help you with that. Do you know your values? Do you know what you value? Okay, so that's the very first thing. The second thing is you look around and say, do these people have lives that I want to have a life like? And sometimes there are times when you're going through a growth period, and this is going to be incredibly hard. And I'm sorry to share this with you, but I also know that it's so important for your inner circle. Is that some people you have to smile and say, "Hey, I love you," but you're bringing me down, and so you have to evaluate your inner circle. And so the next piece of that is finding that the person that's like look around like, hey, who is living a life of integrity? Who's living a life that's similar to my values? And start building a relationship. And something Darryl and I both believe is that we both believe that we're people of value, that value people and add value to them. And one of the great ways to build your inner circle is start adding value to people that you want to be like. And not everybody will come in. And I will tell you that going through the inner circle piece, there's been people that I knew that were going to be part of my inner circle, but it never worked out.
Yep.
I want to share that is okay because the right person. I guess Darryl, is it okay for you to share the story about like us trying to get together? Do you remember how long it took for us to finally?
It took forever. It took forever. You and I had connected. This is my side of it, right? You and I had connected as we were part of the President's Advisory Council for Maxwell Leadership, and we were on the same team, and we talked every once in a while. But it was like, man, there's just something about Jeremy that I want to get to know him better, but it just never happened. Like we saw each other the one international Maxwell conference several years ago. We touched base a little bit, like within our volunteering piece. Then you came off the team that we were on together, and you went to the mastermind team, right? Which we'll talk about that sometime as well. But that particular team, a year later, I was invited to come to that team also. And we got on the call. I'm like, hey, it's you, right? And there was that hey you moment. And from there, I mean, how many times did we say, hey, we should connect? And we never did.
Like right? A dozen times at least.
Hey, let's get together for Zoom and talk. Never happened, never happened. And I don't remember what the final catalyst was. I don't know if there was a threat with a cattle prod or what, but there was something that it worked. It just worked. And we got together, and we probably spent 2 hours together just on a Zoom call, just talking, and just like what we're doing now. And we're like, okay, we got to do this again sooner. And so we scheduled another thing a couple weeks out, I believe. And then it got to the point where we just felt like we were on parallel journeys, and we had so much in common but you were adding so much value to me, and I was adding value to you based on what you told me. So I'm not just making
Absolutely,
it up for
yes.
everybody, right? But it wasn't the same journey. It was just parallel, and in a lot of areas, and some of the things you had already done, so you were mentoring me through things. Other things I had done, and I was mentoring you through things. And so we've been doing this for over a year. I don't even, I'd have to go back and look and see. But, and we had talked about doing podcasts, joked about it, this, that, and the other thing. But yeah, I mean, that was how we came together. And it took time. And I think that's one thing that I think the inner circle is one thing you can't rush. And I love the fact that you said you got to, I'm going to use the word cultivate it, right? You've got to look at those people and be honest, because it's not about them, it's about you, right? You talked about this. We were on stage at the International Maxwell Conference in Orlando a couple months ago, and you brought up the point that, when you're, and I'm gonna say it probably differently than what you had said, but the fact is, if you're on an airplane, the oxygen mask drops, what do they tell you to do? They say put it on yourself first, and then put it on the people around you, right? And one of the things I always ask when I'm doing a workshop is, you drop that mask down, what happens? Like, I want you to visualize what happens if you don't put the mask on you, you put it on your two kids. What happens? You're no longer able to help. You're no longer available to help anyone else. But imagine putting the mask on yourself. And then you have the energy, you've got the oxygen, you can put the mask on the kids, you can put the mask on the people behind you, you can open the emergency door. But if you don't take care of yourself, you can't do any of that. And I think that's what you have to think about when it comes to the inner circle as well, is it's about taking care of you so you can fulfill your purpose. And people come and go in our lives. And we've got to say, not now, maybe later. Thank you for your service. But I'm always looking. I think that in cultivating, I would say I'm always looking for people that I can hopefully put into my inner circle.
Absolutely.
Because I think you had said it earlier, right? You're the average of Jim Rohn used to say, you're the average of the 5 people that you hang around most.
Yep.
Right. So I want my inner circle to be ahead of me. Maybe not in everything, but in areas. But I mean, what do you think? I mean, you're on the search.
Absolutely. And that's something I think that as we're like going through life, one of the greatest piece of advice, and I wish I could remember who said this to me. You ever get a great piece of advice, like, oh, that was really great. So you kind of take ownership of it, is that your life is a book, right? And so, and as you're going through your book, characters are interweaved into that story of yours. And sometimes they're there for a sentence, sometimes they're there for a paragraph, sometimes they're in there for a chapter, or then you have people that just are interwoven into your life for either a long season, many chapters, or maybe the rest of the book. And knowing that that's okay, like the people that come in and out of your life, there's two perspectives of it, as we like to talk about perspective. You can have a positive, like, I love the ability and the time I had with that person, and valuing that time as you continue to move forward. And then there's like this perspective of regret, where you are concerned about, oh, what else could have been. And that becomes like wasted energy. And I think we could redirect that energy to be like, okay, who needs to be here now? Who needs to be for my future? And sometimes it's about, I love legacy. I love the concept of legacy. It's like, who will help me be a better dad? Who will help me be a better husband? Who will help me be a better businessman? Who will help me be a better, I don't know, cowboy? Obviously cowboy is a pretty big part of my life. Who can help me in looking at those people and realizing that as we're evaluating our inner circle, And again, going back to the values, the purpose, the passion, and then kind of that long-term vision of life and moving strategically towards that. It's like, hey, evaluating people and loving on them, but also knowing that we don't need to invest all our resources into certain people. Even though they're great people, we need to find the people that matter for us. And so
Yeah,
that's a really great point.
yeah, I agree with that. And that first part you were talking about, the book, that there might be a chapter, a word, and whatever. So I'm just glad that you remembered that I had told you that, even though you didn't remember. I no, I didn't really.
I love it.
You know what John always says. I mean, it's like, when somebody tells you something and you really love it, the first time you give them credit. The second time you say, you know what, I heard somewhere. And that third time you use it, I was thinking. And every time he shares that, I absolutely love it. And I use it. So
same. I always tell people I'll pay royalties on the first 2 times, the third time is mine. So
it is mine. That's right. That's right. So anyway, well, I think Inner Circle is a huge part of everything that we do, and I'm glad that we were able to sort of walk through and talk through what that is for both of us, and where we are in the circle, and where other people should realize it's not dots, it's circles, and realize that they're in control of who's in that circle. So, and if they don't have value, you can release them,
absolutely.
with love, right? You release them from where they are, or where you think they are, because it's really a mindset piece too. And we won't get into all that right now, but yeah. So this was good. I appreciate it.
And I just want to wrap up with one thing that you said, and I think it's really important for us to highlight. It's circles, not dots. I think that's something I hope people are able to write down and say, hey, who's in my circle? Because circles can cover quite a bit, and dots are just really, really small. So I love that focus piece. So Darryl, I'm glad that we were able to talk a little bit about how we got together and the story of the Inner Circle. So really appreciate you. Thank you, my friend, for sharing it.
This is good. I love that. Sorry. So now what are we talking about?
Well, now it's time for some table questions.
Oh, table questions. All right, good.
Break out a table question and
All right. No pressure, because you're breaking out a hermeneutically sealed deck of Maxwell table questions, and I have no idea what question.
Yeah, I know. So this is going to be some gray matters with Darryl. So these are some questions I'm going to ask Darryl. Ask him some thoughts, just because, again, his wisdom, his perspective, and just the value in his heart is incredible. So, all right. So here's my question for you.
No pressure.
Lots of pressure. You have all the pressure, but you can lift it. I know. So if you had to read only one book for one full year, what would it be?
Oh, you know the answer to this one. I actually have it here. Now, honestly, the reason that I have it here is because I'm working with a small group in a mastermind. And so it's on my desk here. But this is the book. John Maxwell's 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. You can, that one. That's the one. That's already there. So you can, for those of you that are on the video side, you can see that mine has been marked up quite a bit. I've had to rebind this book, and the reason that it's my favorite is because it is a direct line of personal growth. Right, first two chapters are the law of intentionality and the law of awareness. Right, law of intentionality. You've got to be intentional about what you're doing in life, and that goes back to creating and using your purpose. And then the second law, the law of awareness, is you must know yourself to grow yourself. And I think those two chapters are key in starting your own personal growth journey, whether you have it planned out or you're working on it or whatever. But if this was the only book that I could read, and this is a book that I read every year myself, for myself, and the reason is, even though the chapters don't change, I do. And so when I read them, I get different pieces. That didn't matter to me last year. Now it matters to me. Or I go through and I'm like, crap, I was going to use that and I completely forgot and dropped it off my plate. But this would be my go-to book. This is the book that I use with every client, coaching or individual or organization, because I truly believe in. And Mark Cole, who is the CEO of Maxwell Leadership, said something at the conference this year when he was asked what book he would start somebody people with. He gave the same answer for the same reason as I did. This book, because if you understand how growth works, you can be a great parent, you can be a great leader, you can be great self leadership, you can be a great friend, because these components will help you wherever and whatever you're working on, because you understand growth. So did that answer your question?
Led to another question that I don't like. You never know who's going to be watching or listening, and so I think it's really important that if you could you tell me what personal growth is and just give me a short definition? I know that's kind of hard, but
yeah, I can give you a short definition. Okay. I think for me, I think personal growth isn't taught enough. Like I think personal growth should be taught in school. Unfortunately, I feel like school teaches you that you have to have the answer, doesn't necessarily teach you need to be on the journey to find it. And so I believe that you have to grow in order to fulfill your purpose. Now, and again, some folks may know what that means, some people may not, but when it comes to purpose, it's really identifying the person you are supposed to be and accomplishing and creating the legacy that you're supposed to leave. Now, I'm a man of faith, so I believe it's a God-given purpose, right? And so for me, I'll use this example when I'm going to talk about purpose and legacy for a second. And I use this in my coaching as well, is if you, let's say Jeremy, you're 99 years old. You've lived a really good life. You've passed away. You're laying up front of the church or the funeral home, but your family is around you. Now you're married. You have kids. You'll eventually you'll have grandbabies, I'm sure. So you're 99. That moves you way down, several years down the road. First question is this: how long would you like the line to be of people coming to pay their respects to your family because you passed?
That's a great question. And just thinking about that far in the future and the legacy that it would mean.
Yeah.
And I think about all the areas that matter to me right now. The people, the ranching, the growing developing my kids, raising them. And so my hope is when I was, good and gone to heaven, all that good stuff. People are coming to my wife and my kids and saying, I'm talking about the legacy of Jeremy added value to me.
Yeah.
Jeremy,
yeah. So you're jumping into the second question that I'm going to ask. So keep going, but there's a second, because I want to know how long up the line. And then the second question is, what are they telling your family? But when they're leaning down to your grandkids, what are they saying that Jeremy was in my life? How did he add value?
So I'll
keep going.
Answer the first question. I hope the church is full, and I hope people are looking for seats. That's kind of my hope. Now, hopefully, it's a good sized church and not a small 10-seater. But I hope it's a big church with people looking for seats, and I hope, and then I hope they're telling stories, because I'm a storyteller. That's what we do, and I hope people are telling stories about how I added value to people, however that is. Like, you know what, Jeremy, I needed help moving some cattle, or, and like I said, I'm a cowboy. It's kind of what I love to do. said he was always the first guy to show up and encourage. And when things didn't go right, he had a great attitude. And talking to my kids and said, hey, if you need any help at the ranch, we're there to help you too. Because
Yeah.
and that's an
Yeah.
emotion, and then hopefully my wife hears like, hey, if you need anything from us, we always appreciate the investments that you guys gave to us, and now in your time that we're here for you. So
That's good. That's good. The reason that I asked that question is because it is an emotional question, and there's no wrong answer. I've had people say, I don't want anybody to come. I don't want it to be, whatever. And I've had other people say, I want the line to go around the block 3 times. Right. And so there's no right or wrong answer. It's our individual piece. But whatever that answer is, whatever it is you want people to lean into and tell your grandkids, that's the legacy piece. That's the purpose piece.
mm-hmm.
If you don't know what the answer is that you want to be able to say, you want people saying about you, that's where your journey begins, is to figure out what that is. And that growth journey, like, I'm a lifelong learner, right? But I didn't used to be. I got out of school and I stopped reading. Right. I was doing, the only thing I would read was the things that I had to read for a certain thing. I stopped trying to grow personally and change the gray matter, so to speak, of where I wear a bracelet that says growth on it as a reminder that I have to grow in all sorts of areas of my life, not just my finances, not just my business, but I got to learn about health, relationships. How do I contribute to people? How do I add value? How do I manage my time? These are all areas that I can grow in if I'm intentional about it. Back to chapter 1, right? If I'm intentional about those things, but most people aren't intentional about them because, as our friend Mike Kim says, even a dead fish goes with the flow, right? And so most people are going with the flow if they're not being intentional. And so personal growth is being intentional about who you want to grow into, who you want to be, and growing into it. I think that answers that question.
Absolutely. So that was those are some great responses, Darryl. I really appreciate you adding value. And I love that 15 laws of growth, and I love that rubber band, the law of the rubber band, where what's the value of a rubber band? If it has tension on it, that's good. If it has too much tension, it breaks. If it has no tension, there's no value. And I think about that quite a bit. So I guess to ask you a final question for our segment here is, if you could snap your fingers and instantly make the world better, what would you do?
My first snap is going to go back to faith. My first snap would be that everyone know who Jesus Christ is and accepts them as their Lord and Savior. That'd be my first snap. Beyond that, beyond my faith piece, and I'm just going to say, just because I share my faith doesn't mean that I discount anybody else. I love everyone equally, but I am a man of faith, and I'm not shy about my faith. So I'll just put that out there. But I don't want to offend anybody. If anything that I say about faith offends you, just hit mute for a second and then come on back. This is not it's not that kind of conversation, and it's not meant to offend anybody. But that is my, since you asked, that was my first one. I think that if to really, it's a difficult thing because there's a lot of things that come to mind, right? I would love people to know about growth and accept that. But I will say that I think probably the biggest one is love. I'm not going to do the beauty pageant, peace answer. World peace. No, but I will say that I think there would be a whole lot more value if people would try and love people by default instead of earning it. And if we loved people for who they were, not what they said, not but as a human being, if we valued them and loved them, I think we could have a whole lot more conversations that would lead us forward versus the viral hate that seems to be very prevalent in our culture nowadays. So yeah, I'm going to go with that answer.
I love that. That was a great answer. So that's a great segue to our next segment, talking about sounding board, and so I know this is something we both like to share and just want to share our thoughts, especially with there's a lot of vitriol in the world. There's a lot of anger and just kind of not people having conversations, discourse, but just demands and arguments. And so I guess kind of shaping this not just into that, but let's kind of bring it back to that big view. Like, so Darryl, like let's what is something that's in your life and that you would just love to share about? What's a tool, or what's something you've recently experienced that you're like, Jeremy, this was really fun. I don't know if you got any packages lately, but something that you're like, hey.
Yeah. Well, so I've got something actually. I have got, and I did this came via Amazon earlier, but I used these this past week. I was in a inaugural class for a leadership course, and I'm going through it's 9 months, and so we spent 2 days kicking off and getting things rolling. And one of the tools that they used was by MetaFox, and it's a coaching tool, and it's cards. It's basically postcards. And if you open it up and you look at it, and again, encourage you to watch the video, but if you're listening just to the podcast, there's all sorts of photos in here. There's everything from bridges to animals to people walking to clotheslines to clouds to all sorts of different pieces and components and everything that are in here. But wow, the way they used it, and I really enjoyed it, so much so that I bought my own copy of the cards, is that they started out, and because this is leadership, they said, go to the 2 tables, go through all the cards and pull one out, and then go to your cohort. And one of the questions they want us to answer is, or what the question they gave us before we went to look at them was, what kind of leader are you? Find a card that represents what kind of leader you are. Now, you can also ask, what kind of leader do you want to be? Right. So there's a lot of different ways. What kind of person do you want to be? What kind of parent do you want to be? What is it? Right. And so we pulled these cards and then had some really great conversation about what the person saw, like why they picked that card and what it represented for them. And as we went around the cohort, everybody had an opportunity to say, this is what I felt when you were saying that. This is what I heard when you were talking about that. And we had a chance to talk about that. And then they gave their response to our responses. And just a really powerful tool to drive communication and start conversation, rather than, just like you and I have done workshops. We've done a lot of different workshops, right? And you guys like, give me your name, where are you from? All the standard stuff. This was just a great way to start a dialogue and start to actually hear where people's hearts were in the very beginning of this. So I'm excited about using these myself. I've got a workshop coming up this week, and I'll be using them there. So anyway, that was my that's I don't know if it was sounding board, but man, it's a good package. I like it. So let me just say this too. It's not much different in the table questions that you used earlier, right? The Maxwell table questions, right? So, if you want to talk about tools, right? The leadership game that you and I both use. There was another set of cards that you had mentioned when we were talking earlier. What was the name of that?
I think they're called pip decks.
Pip decks. Yeah. So there's tools out there to start dialogue. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we need in growth is dialogue, because the moment you think that you're the one with all the answers is when you realize that you don't have any of them.
Darryl, that's 100% true. And being curious, right? And I think I heard it in a TV show, is that being curious and not judgmental. And one of the things I love about what we do is we have a variety of tools to not only just serve people, but also companies, organizations. And like I said, the leadership game, the values cards that we do, just some of the tools you have. I know we have over 100 tools just a piece. And so I love how we both are able to continue to learn and grow, but not just use them selfishly, but we want to multiply. We don't want to just add. We want to multiply the people. And so
but and multiplication comes from consistency, though, too, right? You start. Oh, look at that look. Yeah.
You used a word I'm unfamiliar with. Consistency. I don't know if anybody else in the world has ever struggled with. Oh my God.
I know what it is. I can't spell it, but I've heard it before, right?
Is there a law of consistency somewhere?
There might be somewhere in the 15 invaluable laws of growth. There may be that chapter in there. So, but
not chapter 5. But in case
looking, that's right. But I'm just saying. I mean, it might be. But to go back to these cards as we were talking, and you were saying what you were saying, I thought of this. This isn't just leadership. Right. It's not. Let me rephrase. It's not just work leadership. We could take these same things, the same cards, and use them at dinner time with our kids, with our spouse. Where are you at today? And let them pick a card. We pick a card, and we have a dialogue about where we are and why. And be able to share and have that communication. So I think that's one of the biggest things people may not understand, and they may not even listen to our podcast, because it's leadership in good company. People may not realize that leading themselves is the very first place to lead. But it's not the last place, and work is not the last place. Let me ask you this. What is your definition of leadership?
Oh, Darryl, man, that's such a great question. I spent 22 years in the Army, and the Army's definition was to provide purpose, motivation, and direction to accomplish a mission on time and give results. And now it's been a couple of days since I've been in the Army, and that's a mouthful. And we both know that's a lot. And our mentor, John Maxwell, says this about leadership. He says, leadership is influence, nothing more and nothing less. And so I like to combine those two definitions and understand that leadership is just influence. And what that influence is influencing people's purpose, motivation, and direction. And that influence for purpose might be just aligning or understanding what a person's purpose is. And the motivation, there's a great book called Daniel P. called Drive, which talks about mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And it talks about the values and aligning values within ourselves to be able to do that. And then just kind of continue to give a direction. Stephen Covey used to talk about in that great book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, we're so hurried, we're in such a hurry to climb the ladder, we're not even paying attention what wall is leaning against. And so again, I think it's, for my personal definition of leadership, is influencing people's purpose, motivation, and direction. And
love that. I love that. And I would concur. I love that definition. I just think that it really encompasses what our role is as a human being. Whether it's work, family, church, community, nonprofit, personal. That definition covers it all. That's good. Very good.
Thank you, my friend. Thank you.
I may steal that, but you get credit on the first one.
I'll take it. I stole it too. Anyhow, so Darryl, it's been pretty fun today, and I know I know people are probably wondering like about us. And so I guess I just have a couple more questions as we kind of wrap up for today's session. Um, where can people find us?
Well, my address, oh no. So we can be found on YouTube under Leaders in Good Company, that YouTube channel. Also, we can be found on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram.
Wow.
And if we get any requests for any place else, we may consider that as well. But right now, that's where we're located. And I would say that we want to be found. We want, if anybody's listening to this, if anybody out there, we want to be found. And we would love to we'd love to get your feedback, right? We're like, I'll just say this. We're not experts at podcasts. We have expertise in other areas. Podcast's not it. And as our mentor, John Maxwell, says, you're never good the first time.
100%. Yes.
And honestly, you're not much better the second, right? So as we're getting started with this, we'd love to have some feedback. If you've got questions, if you have things that are going on in your lives and you want us to use, we've got this segment called the sounding board, where we want you guys to be able to bring things in for us to discuss and hopefully add value to you and give you direction. So YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and definitely you can find us on LinkedIn.
Darryl, I appreciate that. I just wanted to share a quick cowboy wisdom as we wrap up today.
Yeah, please do.
Want everybody to know that, like I said, I live in north central Kansas and got a ranch out. And one of the most important things as a cowboy is we need to sit in the saddle. And the best thing to do is to have some balance. And so we like to say, you want to have your seat in the middle. And so today, it doesn't matter where you're at. I just want to encourage you to try to get yourself in the middle so you're able to be comfortable enough in the scary things, because it isn't always easy, but it is almost always worth it. So just work on your seat, stay in the middle, and focus on the horizon. So I wanted to share that today. So Darryl, I know we need to wrap up today because just life is this. Before we wrap up, love for you to have a final chance to just share a quote, a thought, anything that you'd like to have with our audience.
I appreciate that. I think what I would like to probably encourage people most is the fact that you're not alone. You're not alone in this journey. You're not alone in this life. These are stressful times. These are times that some people feel will make you or break you. I feel that the opportunity is to make you. I think these are the times that if you focus on trying to find that inner circle of folks, so you're not doing life alone. So you have someone you can talk to. Now, we talked about this earlier, but the circle does start with a dot. Even though it's not a dot, it starts with a dot. It has to start someplace. So look for one person in your life that you can try on for size in that inner circle position. Don't be afraid to fire them. But look for those people, because these are trying times. And I think that a lot of people feel like they're going through it by themselves because they are at arm's length with everybody at work. They've got family that are causing stress and stories and drama. They've got other outside things that are causing that, but you're not alone. I've got that. Jeremy's got that. It's different, but it's the same. One of the things that we talk about at Maxwell Leadership is, you're in business for yourself, but you're not in business by yourself. And I would say that to anybody listening to this, you're in life growing yourself, but you're not by yourself. We are here to help. And if we can be of any value, any service, reach out to us, ask a question, and we'd be glad to add value and come alongside you as you're creating this growth plan for yourself and creating this lifestyle that encompasses all the craziness, but all the blessings as well. So what about you, Jeremy? What would you close with?
I think it's important for people to know that there is opportunity in all moments. And so either look for opposition or you can look for opportunity. So start looking for opportunity. I think that'd be just the thing I'd like to share today. You've been listening to Leaders in Good Company, the Chronicles of the Inner Circle with your hosts, Darryl Sanford II and Jeremy Gray. We hope today's episode brought you new insights, a few laughs, and the motivation to keep growing on your journey. If you enjoyed the show, make sure to subscribe, like, share, and leave a review. Stay connected with us on social media for more updates and inspiration. Remember, leadership is a journey, and in good company, great things happen. Until next time, keep leading, keep laughing, and keep living with purpose.